Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, and today we're going to talk about lawfare. Not warfare, but it is a type of warfare, and it's called lawfare. And yeah, before we're going to start to talk about that, if you're interested in detective stories, there will be a link to in the description to my first book called Bloody Crosses. It's in Dutch, so if you're interested, take a look. So, lawfare. I want to make this video because of an incident, and that incident was I was driving at a straight road between two towns. Straight road. There was a crosswalk, and yeah, there was a jogger coming from the right, and he was far away. But yeah, because he was far away, and I was on a road that you can drive faster than inside the towns. I thought I could get faster than him, but this asshole for some reason run harder and harder and faster, and because it was a crosswalk that just went over the fields, and because the towns were left and right, and there was a pedestrian walk that I thought, because he was running so fast that he would go left or right where he was, so he wouldn't need to cross the road. But when I was approaching the crosswalk and he was running faster and faster, he just, with a straight face, don't even look to the left, didn't stop, didn't slow down, look to the left or the right, just run over, and I almost hit him. He was how do you say this, kissing the front of my car with his hands, like, oh, and he didn't even look me in the eyes and just run faster, like he was being chased by something or something. But yeah, it made me think about holy shit, what if I was somebody who drove, who is having a heavy feet, was driving faster. Yeah, by the law, I would be, because I looked it up, who would be in fault. And the thing is, I would always be in fault. But technically, if I have a good lawyer, he could say, save me. And yeah, the thing was, by law, you should always, the how do you say this, the one who is by foot or by bicycle always has an advantage in a lawsuit. But because I have a dash cam and I could prove that this guy was just running straight over without even looking, without turning his head, that could be in my favor. But in the end, I would always be the one who could be sued. But the thing is, if you have a crosswalk here in Belgium, you have to get to the crosswalk, stop, look to your left, to your right, pay caution like it says, and then you got to give intent that you're going to cross over to get your right of way. But this guy didn't do that. He just ran straight to it without even looking. And that is what worries me, because like Asmongold said, the law the law is made for the 2%. The 2% are the idiots who think, because I have the right of way, I don't have to pay attention, I don't have to be alert, and that is exactly what this guy was. He thought, I have the right of way, whatever happens, I'm in my right by law, and consequences are in my, even if I get hit, it would be in my uh, advantage. But yeah, you would be in a hospital, yes, yes, you could get money from me, yes, but you could have prevented all of this by just slow down, look left, look right, show intent, and then you would have gotten the right of way without a problem. And yeah, it is something that is my worst nightmare, to be honest. To do good, how do you say this? To follow the law, do everything right, and you could get sued or get in a hell of a lot of problems because some guy just uses the law as a handrail to go blindly to life by just feeling it, and nothing else around him matters. It's about self responsibility, in my opinion. But yeah, that's how the law works. So I thought about it, and I want to make this video about certain things that you as a prepper need to be prepared for lawfare. Lawfare, yeah, you know. So we're going to talk about the things that you as a prepper could meet. Even if you do all the right things in life, you could get in jail, fined, or in bigger trouble because of these things, and how you can prevent this. First of all, an obvious one in the prepper community would be self-defense. Yeah. For example, was this case in Canada time ago. I think it was a guy, a burglar, who got into someone's house. The guy shot the burglar, and the burglar is suing the guy who he broke into, which does not make any goddamn sense. Uh, yeah, and here in Belgium, there is also a lot of burglar laws, because if there is a burglar at your house, you have to. It can be a big difference in law for self-defense if it's by day and by night. By day, you can see if he has a weapon or not. By night, you cannot see it, and then you can shoot him. So that is a big difference apparently in the Belgian law, which is also stupid, because if somebody breaks into your house and it's daylight, you cannot see he has a weapon, but he might have a weapon. Yeah, on this person, he might grab a weapon around a kitchen knife or something, or he could be stronger than you and beat the shit out of you and break your skull. All possible, but no, because it's daylight, you went too far because you used deadly force. Ah, my blood boils when I hear this kind of stuff. Another another example for self-defense: a friend of mine was being challenged by some guy who was making trouble. He was, these kind of guys who go like, "What, you got some problem, bro? You got a problem, bro?" This kind of person, and he got up to his face. My friend was like, "Oh, what's calm down, calm down." The other guy threw the first punch, but my friend has been, how do you say this, more trained than him. So he kicked his ass because he assaulted him first, and in the aftermath, this other guy sued him by the police. So even if you win the fight, you could be sued because you were too good at it. And even though the other guy started it, so yeah, but by some luck, he could prove by doctor examination, by contradictions in the statements by police witnesses, this and that. Was proven that this guy was in fault, and this guy also had a long track of criminal record where he always been into fights, and a friend of mine not. So that was also in his benefit of the doubt in this kind of thing. So we're going to talk about that later. But this guy had to pay for 12 months for how do you say this, stealing of honor by putting a false lawsuit or something. So that turned out good. But for the same thing, somebody could be aggressive towards you, attack you first. You could beat the shit out of him, or at least punch him, and he could sue you later. And that is a big nightmare for a prepper. Even though you've done all the right things, you could still be sued. All right, so how are we going to solve the self-defense cases? I would say, for burglars, I would say make sure they are inside your house. If they are outside of their outside of your house, they could say they were not a direct threat, so you could not shoot them, even though they are on your property. But if they are in your house, that's a big difference. There is this guy I know from my work who had a guy show up at his house because he was threatening all for weeks, and the big mistake was he was ready for him with a knife in from the inside, but because this guy didn't was just at how do you say this, at the doorstep, because he was stabbed at the door because he was ringing, making trouble, and my colleague stabbed him right on the doorstep, and because it was happening just 10 centimeters outside of the doorstep, it was not self-defense, and he had to go to jail for 7 years. So yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Always make sure that you don't use deadly force or violent force, physical force actually, not outside of the house or your inner perimeter. Don't go chasing the guy. Don't go out of your way. Let them use Sun Tzu Art of War. Let them come to you. Let them get closer if you are ready to be for the fight, so to say. All right. First of all, de-escalate. Always de-escalate the fight, even though some people are drunk, aggressive by nature, mentally retarded. Just de-escalate. Even if they call you pussy, let that ego Don't let your ego go. Be the better man. Don't let that ego get to you, and just de-escalate. If this de-escalation doesn't work, just walk away. Even though if they call you pussy, just run away. It's not worth it. These kind of people, because the next time it's going to be somebody else. So these people, they don't have honor. So why should you infringe upon your honor? Um, all right. If you're going to make a last stand by protecting your children, your wife, whatever, your friends, a third party, or yourself, if you're going to make a last stand, make sure there are witnesses. What you can do is make noise, make alert people around you by, whoa, whoa, I don't want to fight, I don't want to fight. Don't get closer, don't get closer. If you yell this, first of all, you're going to draw attention from other people who might think, ooh, what's going to happen? And this kind of generation, of course, take their cell phone out and start filming it, which could be in your uh, benefit. And also listening witnesses. If somebody hear your voice screaming, don't get closer, don't get closer, I don't want to fight, this is your last warning, bro, don't get closer. They can give that testimony to the police in your advantage. And if the other person rips up, what, you got a problem, bro? That could be in their disadvantage. So make sure that you're going to do these things, even though it might sound a little bit like a many people would say, wow, why don't you just punch him, pussy? No, like I said, the law can backfire against you in that way. So make sure that you're making use this lawfare. Use any advantage you have in these kind of scenarios, I would say. Another thing is, after the fight, even though if this guy had to go to the hospital, just was a pussy, ran away after he noticed that you are actually going to fight back, make sure you call the police always. Make sure that, hello, officer, I got assaulted on the parking lot here by this guy, description this. Um, even if they are not going to do anything, if they say, yeah, sure, we cannot do anything now, we don't find anything, then at least it's on the record that you call the police after fight, and this guy cannot go claim that you were the aggressor and you ran away from the fight. So yeah, that could be very handy in court later if this guy is going to sue you like they did to my friend. Uh, so report the incident even if nothing special happened. Just make sure this could be handy even later if this other guy is a local troublemaker and the police is being called again. They will know, oh yeah, we got another report about this guy in this description. Yeah, that could be used against him, and that could solve a lot of problems later on. And if you got into a fight, a physical fight, always go to a doctor. I know, even if you have just a bruise, a black eye, whatever, go to a doctor to make sure that you got a doctor report that you got assaulted, and you can do a counter suing thing against the aggressor. So the more evidence you have, the better in lawfare. And usually, these kind of persons are just the kind of persons who just get angry, punch, get away, and think they are the man. But if you have all this evidence, this police report, doctor medical report, and you want to sue them, you can go full hardcore and destroy them in that way. And by law, by the way, not by just pity. All right. So the next thing I would say is traffic. Like I said in the beginning with the example of the jogger who was in the right, the law was very muddy in that way. But eventually I would be the one being losing the case. But you can help with this by having a dash cam. Having a dash cam is also handy because of this video. I got a dash cam because of this video about some group who rode in front of a car, and they were always braking in the hope that this guy would crash in their back. And they do this because the person who crashes in the back couldn't brake at time and would be liable for the damages that being caused. And it gets better because this guy was always braking on time, but they eventually stopped. They drove backwards, so they as hard as they can, so they could say that the guy after them, behind them, was crashing inside of their backside. They got outside, and 5 people, because they always have to get the maximum amount of money, got outside of the car, and we were like, oh, You drove into our back. Started taking pictures of the number plates and this and that for the preparing for the lawsuit. And the moment they saw this guy had the dash cam, they just get into the car and ran away. So yeah, the lawsuit wouldn't have worked. But that's the reason. Always have a dash cam in your car for this kind of reason. Could be always be handy. Also, because a dash cam also takes sounds. If you get stopped by the police and they don't do things by the law, they make mistake. Perhaps they are aggressive or they have a bad day, or they charge you with something that actually is not lawful, but because they're a cop, they can pressure you. If you can have a dash cam and they can record it, you can use this against to appeal whatever the cop is trying to charge you for. So that could be also be very handy. Uh, all right. Next thing I would say is always be in order with your driver license and insurance. My ex-girlfriend got into real big trouble because of this, because she went, how to say this, because there was something wrong with the payment to insurance company. She got on the road to the Netherlands. She got stopped uh, by the cops because they say you don't have an insurance. But she had an insurance, but because there was a payment, one payment late, she got cited as a, how do you say this, a person who doesn't pay debt. How do you say this? Pay a debt or something, and they cancelled the insurance without her even knowing because there was something with the payment that she did, but it didn't go through. So yeah, she was in to say this debt chaser, and her insurance was cancelled, and her car was impounded because she didn't have insurance, and she didn't even know about anything about it. So always check that you have your driver license still available. How to say this? That you will not have to renew it. Make sure that you always have it on your body. Always make sure your insurance is up to date and paid regularly, I would say. Another thing I would say is keep your car maintained and do a regular checkup. Why? Because if you have a car accident and the insurance will, how to say this, examine the cars, they will look at it and say, oh, but you haven't been your brakes haven't been checked for the last so much time, and you have to do this so many times. Yeah, we're not going to pay out because your car was not maintained and was probably the the cause of the accident. So always go to every 6 months, go do a small maintenance about your car. Let it check by garage that you have proved that, oh, but this car went to the garage to be checked and so such. So yeah, um, another thing I would say is always have your accident papers. I don't know what is the name in English, but if you have an accident, you have a form that you can fill in. And because I had an incident with this, because some guy drove into my ass at a red light, and we had to fill in this form about what happened, insurance information, this and that. But the problem was, yeah, it took a lot of time for me to search up all these information. So if you have one of these forms, already fill in your information about your insurance company and this and that's all the information that you can pre-written on it, so you don't have, because during this situation we were cool-headed, but that was a benefit, so there was no problem. But if some guy is just full of rage or full of stress and doesn't want to cooperate with it and make mistakes, yeah, that could backfire later on. So always have a pre-written, not about the accident, but the insurance information and your information all on the paper already. Could be very handy. Um, all right. Next thing I would say is the law about structures. Structures. I'm talking about your house, your property, this kind of stuff. I would say take pictures of it. Make sure that you take pictures of your structures to know if there is any damage that you have approved that this damage was not was caused by this person with his car or whatever, or by this disaster, because I have pictures before this date, and you cannot, the insurance cannot claim then, oh, but this was damage that always already was happening. No, you have now pictures to prove that it wasn't, because insurance will always try to dismiss something, and by saying, oh, you cannot prove that it already happened, you try to put us into pay without a reason. So yeah, that's something that you can do also of your property. uh, don't how to say this, don't show too many people about your buildings, not only for burglars that they know the layout, but also for Karens. Because if you know somebody who hates you, have a fight with you, or doesn't like you, these kind of people, these Karens are the kind of people who call the police and say, hey, this small building in his garden, I don't think it's up to date, you should check it. And that way they can get you, by lawfare they can get you into trouble. So make sure that you have a fence that people cannot look over it and find something suspicious by calling the how to say this, calling the police or the government for it, for infringement upon building codes. For example, my parents, they had troubles 2 times with this. One time they had the after how to say this, some landscaping project. They There was never a big tree on on their line of the property, but because other people took it down, that it was, we are talking about meters, we could not prove that the tree was not on our property line, but because it was chopped down, we had to pay immense fine. They say this environmental fine, unless we planted 150 trees on that property. And that property, those trees belong to the persons who chopped the tree next to us. So yeah, that's kind of lawfare in that way. So my parents had to plant 150 trees from and buy them from the guy that chopped the tree down and made the claim. So yeah, that's fucking fucked up. But yeah, by law we couldn't do anything. Another thing, for example, my parents had a big how do you say this? One of those big umbrellas that you can sit under with a table, and the government was looking through satellites images, and they saw a suspicious structure in the garden, which would not belong there by the papers. We sent an inspector, but they sent an inspector because it looked like a garden house, but it was an umbrella. You see what I mean? How fucked up this could be. So make sure that you that you don't have this kind of stuff, making it in order, or make sure that nobody sees it, I would say. Um, so another thing, for example, by law, if you have a sort of garden house structure that is over the amount of surface that you are allowed to build on, but in Belgian law there is some law, I don't know if it's up to date, but if it's a chicken coop or a bird house, how is it, a volières, we call it. If you have that in it, then it's allowed. So if you have a great building like this, you could use it by getting a small section, make it into a chicken coop, or putting some birds inside of them, like parakeets, or something. And now it's a garden house by law. So yeah, it's stupid, but you can use the law against them too. So this is lawfare. Uh, so also check national and local building laws, especially if you're going to renovate or build something, because a lot of my friends are now building their house, and it's madness. All the building codes you have to up to date. If you A normal person wouldn't know this. You always have to get expertise with this. Uh, Always let it check by somebody who has expertise in this kind of field, because otherwise you will violate some building code or norm that you not even know about it. So yeah, be sure that you always check national and local building laws and codes. For example, in the Netherlands, there was some guy who had built something to catch all the rain that fell on his property, but by law you have to let it, how do you say it, infiltrate. You have to have a space on your property where it can infiltrate, so it will not run to the street and overflow the streets. But this guy was living self-sufficient, but because of that, he was in code violation, even though he wanted to be self-sufficient with rainwater, but he had to break it all off and make sure that some filtration could happen. on this property. So this is the reason why I say always check national and local building codes. I think there is something also in California where you're not allowed to catch your own rainwater because there are a lot of droughts over there. Make If you know something about this, make sure that you put it into the comments. Find it interesting. And the last thing I would say is, as a prepper, there are a lot of preppers that would have side hustles. Yeah, a side hustle. I'm not talking about a company or a one-man business or something. I'm talking about just a side hustle. For example, if you have chickens and you have too much eggs, you can sell some. You can put one of those boxes out there with a piggy bank to it and say uh, a few 10 cents for an egg, for example, why people were just passing by. Or if you have too much vegetables or something and you want to sell some of that just on the street because yeah, you have too much of it and it's too good to go to waste, and some have already went to your family and you want to sell something of this, but yeah, by the government this would be black market. So yeah, you could be into a lot of trouble with this, especially here in Belgium. They are very hard on this. But yeah, or if you want to do something for a friend, for example, if he's renovating building and you just go into an afternoon helping him, that could be considered black work, like working without how do you say, official allowances, and that's it's kind of bullshit in my opinion. But it's like as Mongol said, it's for the 2%ers, the people who would try to make advantage of this kind of law. Of the If the law wasn't there, people would hire 1,000 workers and say, "Oh, they're just friends who come to help me." I know this is why we have this kind of laws, but yeah, if you have some local government person or police who say the law is the law to the letter and you're in violation, even if you help just a friend for one afternoon because it's a little bit too heavy of a brick to carry. Yeah, you could be lose your pension, even that big fines, that kind of stuff, big penalties. Yeah, that's the reason why I say if you're going to do a side hustle or something like that, selling eggs or whatever, uh, just keep it within the law. Ask advice by a professional. Uh, get help if you want to know that you can do this, or like a garage sale or something. What are the things that you need to do to be allowed to have a garage sale, for example? Another thing is don't get greedy and keep it small. It's because if people earn some money with this, they will think, oh, I can do this again and again. Oh, I can sell more and more. And now you are not just, it's not a side hustle anymore. Now you're getting too greedy and you're getting too big. And now you can become a target of the IRS or something. So yeah, like I said, don't get greedy, keep it small, and ask for advice. Uh, Talking about advice, another, and this for almost everything I would say that I mentioned, always have the number of a lawyer in your back pocket. I would say in your phone, just have a lawyer ready. If you have family who are a jurist or went to law school or are a lawyer, have their number in your phone or in your back pocket. I would say this could be handy if you get arrested, because even though if you haven't done anything and you were just at the at a bad place at the bad time, and you get arrested and they try to make you confess because you were the only person around when the crime has been committed, they can pressure you, and a lot of people crash under this kind of pressure, or they are in panic. Perhaps they have a low IQ and they would just want to get out and sign anything they want. These things happen. So always have a lawyer ready for you whenever something happened. Could be when you're arrested. Could be, for example, in my mailbox, I got a letter from, the people, if you, a debt collector, I think it's called in English. These are the kind of people who can just come to, who hasn't paid their debts. And these kind of people can just break open your locks, get into your house, and take your stuff to pay off the debt. And I got these kind of letters, but it was not meant for me. It was meant for somebody else, but it was my address that was on it. Because my address is kind of weird with a 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. So yeah, this could be very. I get all kind of mail from that is not meant for me, and if these kind of debt collectors think that my house is the one that they get to take the stuff to pay off the debt, yeah, I need to get a lawyer to say, this guy are doing this. Talk to him and say what's happening, and they can help you if you have the phone number of a lawyer who can directly assist you with that. Could be very handy, or if you have trouble with something that is happening, how to say this, at the store shelf or at the airport. If you are in an airport and they say, uh, you get on the plane and they say they overbooked it, which is something that happened a lot. Make sure that you call your lawyer, because these airports can say, "Oh, we're going to refund you, but it's going to take 2 days." But if the moment you leave it without any papers trails or something, and you come back, they say, "Oh, but you had to put in the claim before you left the airport, and we are not going to refund anymore." These things happen, and if you have a lawyer, if you have these kind of problems, you can just directly call a lawyer and say, "I have this problem now. What should I do?" Could always be handy if you're going to be part of lawfare. Uh, yeah. If you got any experience with lawfare, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn from other people what their experience was, and maybe I can prepare for it better because of it. Uh, so like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and see you in the next video. Cheers.